Before I started, thought I'd go on like a bit of a tangent here. I was driving and thinking actually the other day, like, why are we doing all this, right? Like, why are we investing so much time? Me and you, the person listening, why are we investing so much time into this? What are we really getting at? And I think what I realize is we are studying deeper than anyone else. We're studying product market fit, that concept which is critical really for any early stage founder, whether you're a first time founder or a repeat founder, because most repeat founders maybe have done it once, maybe twice. We've now done 40 or so interviews. So all of them focused on product market fit. And now with these little segments, like what's the point of these segments is to spend the extra time going through the interviews and really pulling out the observations, right? All the key observations. And they're really that, like, they're not advice, because I think it's impossible to give advice without all of the context. And frankly, I just don't like giving advice. It's not that I don't like getting advice. I like getting advice, but I just remember as a founder, you get so much advice. The last thing you need is another piece of advice. So it's really just observations. But I think at the end of the day, you want to be really good at something, you have to become an expert at it. And for any early stage founder trying to build something, they all know just how hard 0 to 1 really is. And if you want to get really good at it, you got to study it. And that's really what we're doing here. We're studying it deeper than anywhere else. So that said, I went through the last episode with Martin, CEO of Applyboard. Amazing episode. The founder, like Martin, has accomplished so much in like 7 or 8 years. It's incredible. So you should check out the episode. But, let me highlight kind of some of the observations, I guess, that came out of that. So think back to like before you started your first startup ever. Like, what was your mindset? If it was anything like mine, you didn't know anything about product market fit. And for whatever reason, like one reason or another, you decided at some point that you wanted to start a business. You wanted to be a founder. And I would assume, if you're anything like me, that one of the big reasons was you wanted to make money. Like, let's be honest. That's a lot of the times the driving factor, at least the initial one, is like just wanting to make way more money, be in control, all those things, right? And it's kind of like that Jay-Z quote, right? Like money over everything. And I think that's how like a lot of founders, certainly how I started out. So then the next step is like, okay, how do I make money, right? Like what ideas could start a business? What would be big businesses? What could make money, right? And that's where your mind starts to go. Again, like there's exceptions to everything, but frankly, tends to lead to some terrible ideas. And I had like so many bad ideas. I remember one of my first ideas was this thing called like Solaris. And it was like this, it's like embarrassing to even talk about. It was like, in order to have more lights in buildings, right? So think like commercial buildings or whatever, these things that you would put, and they actually exist, it's a real thing, but just a ridiculous business idea. You put these like mirror-y things outside of the window so that light shines on those things and then projects onto the ceiling and adds more light to the building. Like that was one idea we had. We had so many terrible ideas. And the reason we had all these bad ideas, honestly, was because we were just focused on getting money. And so anything that came into our heads, I was like, oh, this could be a thing that somebody would buy and would make money. All of a sudden we started working on it and building business plans and all this stupid stuff. And it took me a long time to realize it. But this episode really brings it to home, which is when you're a founder, right? When you're going from 0 to 1, the key thing is not money over everything. It's value over everything. If you don't provide incredible value, you're never going to get anywhere. And the opposite of that is totally true. If you provide incredible value, everything will take care of itself. Everything will take care of itself. You can make so many mistakes, but if you're providing incredible value, everything tends to take care of itself. Think about it with Applyboard. So Applyboard, think about the value that he's bringing. And that's one of the reasons where like you actually hear the story. And one of the parts that's almost like, I don't know about unsettling, but it's a little frustrating almost, like, man, this is so easy. Like what? Everything just worked. And obviously, you dig in and there's going to be trials and tribulations just like anybody else. And there's going to be problems and all this stuff. But it's true. A lot of the stuff took care of itself because the pull was so incredible, because the value was so incredible. He was changing people's lives, period. Like literally going to people that live in countries where they don't want to live the rest of their lives in. For them, being able to come study abroad, study in Canada, study in the US, whatever, is literally a life-changing event. Like they're 20-something and the rest of their lives, they're planning to live in this other country, and this is a way for them to get there and get a job there. It's absolutely life-changing. And it's not just for them, it actually affects their entire families. So they had entire families consumed with this application process. It was the number one top of mind thing for every single person in those families. He was changing their lives. The ROI was immeasurable. And at first he was charging for it, and people were, happy to pay. But then when he actually uncovered, we'll talk later, like he uncovered this, the agent piece plus the university piece, which bottom line just made it free for students. It was just through the roof. I mean, like, who doesn't want this, right? But transformational value. And again, on the flip side, because he was selling to schools, he was effectively selling fully applied students, like these international students. By the time a school paid Apply Board, they've already fully applied, they're already enrolled, like they're already accepted, I should say. And the school pays them, like, let's say $1,000 or $2,000, but they make like $10,000 or $20,000 on these students. So there's literally a 10x ROI. It's not just like saying 10x because it sounds cool, like literally providing 10x ROI. So when you're providing that much value, you get insane pull. And I'm not saying every single company like that is going to get the, $1 billion status, but I will tell you, you won't get to $1 billion status without that type of pull. And it's so worth it in the early days, just doing a lot of groundwork early on until you find something that you can honestly say to yourself in front of a mirror, I'm providing incredible value to my customers. I'm an absolute must-have. Here's another thing that happens like in the really early days, right? In this kind of pre-product market fit days, which is, you have an idea, you go out, you launch it, whatever, you get some traction. And at some point it's time to fundraise. And you feel like, what you've built and what you're building and your vision is so unique, so awesome. VCs are going to love it. Like, VCs are going to love it. They're going to eat it up. And inevitably, we go out and you start pitching VCs after VCs, and the majority of early stage founders, even to be clear, the ones that end up being really big successes, you face the same thing, which is VCs pass. And they keep passing and they keep passing. And it's extremely frustrating. Notice a few things, and this is coming out of the Apply Board episode. The first part is, because this is exactly what Apply Board had. Like between 2015 and 2018, he couldn't raise. He literally could not fundraise a meaningful amount, certainly not from VCs. The first thing you need to realize is that in many cases, many cases, customers get it before VCs do. In fact, I would take that a step further, which is like in the really early days, the only people that you need to pay attention to are your ICPs. So first thing is like, are you an ICP? Do you fit my ideal customer profile? If yes, I'm really interested in what you think. If no, you're probably irrelevant. And most VCs aren't ICPs, and so they will not get it as fast as your customers. Your customers are going to get it first. That's the first thing. That happened to Apply Board. Like, he had students on day one. Like, he made a sale the first day he put up the landing page. He had incredible traction. VCs still didn't get it, right? VCs at that time, like, they wanted recurring SaaS revenue. They didn't like that it was transactional. They didn't understand how big it could get. They didn't see the opportunity. That's common. Like, I'm not even blaming the VCs back then. I might have passed. Like, at the end of the day, VCs often take longer to get it than customers do. So that's the first thing is like, if that's happening, I'm not, ignore it, don't ignore it, whatever, but it just doesn't mean that much. The second thing, and this is something that Martin really saw, is in the early days, like seed stage VCs are less investors than they are believers. And so when you're out there trying to find somebody to fund, some VC to fund your seed stage startup, it's not like you're out there selling a bond, right? Or selling like a house where you can, showcase very clearly the kind of cash flow that asset's going to produce and therefore what it's worth, and you have investors bidding. You don't. You're out there pitching some vision, pitching some story with a little bit of like signal, a little bit of traction. And what you're out there looking for are the best fit believers, are VCs on the other side who believe what you believe. And that's just hard to find. That's why 99% of VCs are going to say no, because they just don't believe what you believe. In his case, he said was, he was focused on immigrants. He was focused on international students. And so he said he never had a problem with immigrant VCs. Any immigrant VC right away got it. I didn't even have to tell them about the problem. They're like, oh, can I test it? Can my cousin in India use it? Right? So that's part of it. It's like, you have to find VCs that really believe what you believe. And the other piece of it that I just want to flag was like, customers will often get it before VCs do. So VCs are passing on your seed stage startup. It doesn't really mean all that much. Another thing we often talk about is this concept of you have to be in the market doing the market. And it happens clearly to Apply Board, right? So Apply Board, they launch with this model where students have to pay for Applyboard to help them get into a school. And that's how it all starts. And there's traction there. I mean, there's students who are actually willing to pay, and they're coming to the website and they're transacting and all these sort of things. And then what Martin talks about is that at one point, he's been in the market for a couple of years, and what he starts noticing is this weird traffic where, students normally, they would come in, they maybe do they would kind of research for a few hours on the Applyboard platform, and then they leave. And he was noticing some accounts that would every single day for 2, 3, 4 hours straight do research. And so he looked into it, and what he found was these were not students, but agents representing, 10, 20 students each. These are agents in Bangladesh, India, these other countries that help students, move over and study in Canada and the US. At first, he actually didn't know what to do with this. He didn't know if he should ban them, right? Because he's actually trying to go direct to students. He's trying to disintermediate the agents. That was his original idea, and build this brand that really replaces agents like the online agent. And all of a sudden, agents are using it. They're getting his online advantage for free. So his first thought is we should, find a way to block these agents. And they had several meetings actually internally about it. They didn't really know what to do about it until at one point they realized that they decided to do it. They decided to do it, and that changed history as far as Applyboard is concerned. Working with agents was one of the biggest tailwinds they could ever get, and totally help them completely take over the market. The reality was they were never going to disintermediate agents. Agents have a strong foothold in all these countries. They're there locally, present in person, and it's just kind of status quo. So again, why fight status quo if you can build with it? Because it's just so much easier, so much less friction. But my point there is, when you start off, you think you have the thing. And even if you have part of the thing, you don't have all of the thing, right? In his case, he actually had something solid, something people wanted, which was help coming here and studying in Canada. He thought the way to do it was going direct to students. It turns out it wasn't. It was actually working with agents. But he couldn't have figured that out without having been in the market. And so the kind of point of all this is, you're going to do research, you're going to identify real problems, and you'll launch something. And that's the key, is that just remember, the first thing isn't the thing, rarely is the thing. So I just wanted to flag that because, you have to be in the market to win the market. And the point there is, the only way you're going to discover the unique insights that really make your solution the perfect solution for the problem and get you true product market fit is being in the market. That's the only way you're going to find it. Research is critical to find problems that are worth solving, but you're never going to get the unique insights without being in the market in the first place. One quote I'll leave you with actually that he said was, when it comes to hiring, and this is the number one lesson he had actually to share, was when it comes to hiring, overemphasize on the people who have drive and purpose in life and underemphasize on the knowledge and experience that person has. So the first person within 6 months to a year can learn what the person number 2 can do, but the person number 2 will never be able to get the drive and the passion that the first one has. I think that's totally true. In the early stages, the reality is the A players that are already proven, already have experience, they're out there working at $50 million plus, $100 million plus ARR businesses, making money that you can't pay for the most part, right? Every now and then you can get a couple, but realistically, those aren't the people that you're gonna get on the bus at this stage. What you got to go and get are the A players that are not proven yet, that are not identified yet, that have all the passion, have all the drive, they have intelligence. But what they really have is potential, and they're coming to your startup to realize that potential. And if you can identify those types of people, you can get incredible ROI.